Thanks for staying with us. Join us on the show at this sponsored segment is the chairman of GTEX Holdings, Dr. Stephen Akintayo. He will be speaking on his project of raising $100 million for green smart homes in Africa through digital cooperative model. You're welcome, sir.
Hey, thank you. How are you doing today?
Very well. So cooperatives are a concept that is almost as old as saving. What is different about your digital cooperative model?
Well, it's still the old model. The only difference is the fact that you are leveraging on technology to be able to, of course, moderate your meetings. In the old model, you have to physically come together to meet. In digital model, people can be anywhere in the world, just the same way I'm here in Maldives and I'm connecting with you here in Lagos. So that also helps in such a way that we can then bring the whole of Africa together. You can have people be part of the cooperative from different parts of the 54 African nations and can raise revenue to be able to develop Africa. Of course, we know how important that is.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have seen several cooperatives come and go. So several investment schemes come and go. How are you setting GVest apart, and how are you reassuring investors that if they put their money in this investment, they would definitely get their money back?
Beautiful. So GVest is not new. It's something we currently run in our Nigerian operation. And we've never defaulted on return on investment for our cooperative member. Plus, the concept we use is called fractional real estate ownership. So in other words, they own a fraction of that property, right? And if anything goes wrong, they still have the property that has been acquired. And so that has helped for transparency and trust. And for me, I think that using cooperative model help a lot of people who probably will have been cut off from being able to have access to real estate investment, either in terms of ownership or in terms of being able to get return on investment. For you to buy one house on your own will probably cost you $100,000 and above. Now it means that with a digital cooperative and fractional real estate ownership, even with $5,000, with $10,000, I can own a fraction of that particular house. And when tenants rent that house and they pay rent, I can also get a fraction of the rental income that is coming in. So being able to come up with this, we're hoping to launch this in October. I've been doing a lot of African tour of my book, and the Billionaire Habits series across Africa. And what I notice is that Africa is right. One is that the brand, particularly my own personal brand, apparently had grown big in those African countries. We're planning to host maybe 30 people in Cameroon. An entire theater had to be used because it was huge population. I already have mentees. One of the guys I met there, is running a $2 million construction project and happened to say he learned all that from me. So what we noticed that unconsciously with all the teachings I've been doing, we have indirectly mentored so many people across Africa. And they are the ones that are saying, you have to come invest in Uganda, you have to invest in Ghana. And we're hoping that we come together as Africans and begin to start those investments.
Right, okay.
So $100 million, that's a lot of money. And are you sure that investors are willing to be part of this now? There's a lot of comments going on. And also, what are the kind of investors you believe would buy into this project? What are the investors you are looking for?
Beautiful. So yes, $100 million is a lot, but the truth is that for us to do what we need to do, you need tangible income to be able to do that. However, the good news is the fact that we already have people in these countries who are willing to become investors. Many are ready to do JV. They already own lands and they're just waiting for us to come do construction. Some don't own land, but they want to invest. And so that already exists. Now, if you also look at the diaspora remittance in Africa. Nigeria alone does over $20 billion in remittance. Now we're talking of 54 African countries, right, that are coming together. The number of income from diaspora alone can't be less than $100 billion every year. And we're trying to raise this money between the next 5 to 10 years. So you have that long, tenure to raise the entire $100 million. So definitely it's possible. But again, it will be on the part of Africans to choose to do that. Because what happened when I started the tour, people are saying you have invested in Dubai, we control over 100 properties in Dubai. You've invested in US and UK. You didn't invest in any other African country aside Nigeria, which is where you come from. And for me, one of the things I kept saying is, if we're united, I would love to invest. Why not invest? But the people themselves have to be interested, and they have to invest their money in those countries as well. So for me is, rather than just saying GTEx alone, we move our money into Ghana and start doing development. No, let Ghanaians themselves be part of this cooperative. GTEx brings some part of the money. The people locally bring some part of the money, and those in diaspora as well. And then we build those houses. At the end of the day, what that will also prevent is a situation where, as you know, in Africa, a government doesn't like your face and then they kick you out, right? Because it will have been an investment for Africans by Africans, and the citizens' resources is involved as well.
Yes, please, could you also tell us about the recent Forbes Best Africa Leading Investment Coach and Real Estate Mogul Award? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's humbling. For me, I keep asking myself, this is a company we started 15 years ago with just 1,000 naira, and to be invited to London to receive a Forbes award is really something humbling. And for me, it's a proof that dreams come true, because a lot of these things are things you'd never believe can happen to somebody without political connection or somebody from a rich family. But I'm encouraged, and it's part of even the reasons why we're saying, hey, because this is an African award, even though it's given by Forbes, it's time to also look inwards into what more can we do in Africa beyond just Nigeria that I'm from. We need to develop Africa, and we can develop Africa. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
You've been on a book tour. So can you tell us which particular book is the focus of this tour?
Okay, so the tour, I authored Billionaire Habits. I've been to your studio, to review that, and then followed by Billionaire Codes after Billionaire Habits. Then this year we did 3 where that focuses on industry. So we had Billionaire Habits for entrepreneurs, and then we had Billionaire Habits for pastors, and then we had Billionaire Land Banker for those who are into real estate. And so we decided to do a tour of the entire 5 books. So we were in Ghana, Cameroon, Zambia, Kenya, and then the first leg of the tour 2 months ago. And then this current leg of the tour, we had Uganda, Kenya again, Mauritius, Rwanda, and then South Africa will come next.
Right. Okay.
So, of course, we're in a new administration in Nigeria, and there's expectation that there will be new economic policies, the ones we've seen so far with the subsidy and floating of the Naira. Do you consider these policies favorable for the real estate sector in Nigeria?
Well, it's a tough one. However, for me is that it's been an issue for us in the sector to have 2 exchange rates. It doesn't work. You have the black market, you have the CBN, and then there were some people enjoying the CBN rates. Some of us were not enjoying that. So being able to make everything one, I think is something good. Of course, government has a long way to go in terms of the palliatives that need to come in to cushion the effects of that. One of the things I wrote a piece on my page. I expected government to have announced the new minimum wage, even if it's going to take effect months from the dates announced. You can say, okay, it's taking effect from October, but let's know the new minimum wage. And I think it shouldn't be less than 200,000. And I think there can be difference between what state government and federal government is giving. State government can say, we'll give 100,000 minimum wage, let the federal give 200,000. It's also important to look at, buses, we're in the renewable space, buses that use CNG, because again, these are better for the climate. Buses that use solar, by now we should be thinking of hundreds of thousands of, the bus and vehicles that can make transportation a lot easier. So I think in the area of the palliative, the rollout is slow, and there's so much that can be done. It's not just releasing grains. There's so much creativity that can come into that angle. But yes, subsidy has to go. And of course, the Naira policy, Naira dollar policy is a good one. But, the implementation needs to be done properly.
Okay, so, I mean, you've just led us talking about palliatives. I would say that what is GTEx going to do for its clients to cushion the effects of all these policy changes?
Well, I think that question should be to government. What we have rolled out, though, as a company, is a more flexible payment plan for our estates that we've already launched. So prior to now, we only do 0 to 3 months payment plan. Now we've launched 12 months. For our housing, we only do 12 months for those buying houses for us and they're paying installment. Now we've launched 36 months for people to be able to pay for houses with us. And we're partnering with mortgage banks so that they don't have to pay the entire 100%. So those are areas that we have control. Of course, others has to then be the government themselves. I remind you, GTEx does not operate just in Nigeria. So there is no dollar or subsidy issue in Dubai that will operate, or in UK or in US. Of course, there's a high cost of living crisis in the UK. You also have inflation in the US. But I think that is not affecting those markets. And next year we're doing heavy. In fact, we're setting up a fund, a $200 million fund in the US for massive expansion in the US market, because again, we realize that only 8% of Africans own properties in the US, for example. That is not good enough. 8% of Africans, whether they're Africans in diaspora, whether they're African Americans. And so the inequality in housing is ridiculous. And so we're hoping that we can get in and then make sure we have structures that is more friendly. For example, if you've ever been jailed in the US, you've ever gone to prison, you're not eligible to certain mortgages. And a lot of Black people have had to go to jail in the US. If your credit line is below a certain point, you are not entitled to be able to get certain mortgage. And you and I know that compared to whites who are third generation, fourth generation, middle class and upper middle class, most Black people are third generation, lower class, right? So you can't guarantee that they will have the right credit line. So we're hoping to do that in next year in the US. It's going to be a great one. We're looking forward to.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Stephen Akintayo, for sharing your view concerning the GTEx Holdings. We wish you the best as you move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're speaking with the chairman of GTEx Holdings, Dr. Stephen Akintayo.